Anna, hi. Thank you very much for your time here today. Could you please introduce yourself and tell us about DestiCorp?
Be happy to. Primarily, we're e-business or e-commerce consultants whose task it is and aim is to help our clients navigate their way through this complex territory of electronic commerce. You probably think we might be techies, but we're not. We see ourselves as strategists, primarily educators, interpreters. They're somewhat like scouts that help the army go into unfamiliar territory. We can read the tracks, we can read the signs, we can help you avoid the ambushes.
That sounds very interesting. That sounds fantastic, actually, considering the industry moves so fast and so many people need advice on where it's going, and in order to do that, they need to know who the experts are. Is that what DestiCorp is?
Yes, we're very much focused on what's happening in the technological arena. We think the industry at the moment is going through enormous change. Now, which is much deeper, in fact, than what we're experiencing at the moment, which is a horrendous sort of downturn, a temporary downturn in activity as a result of September the 11th. But our analysis of the situation is there are much deeper trends, deeper dynamics at work here. This industry has experienced pretty steady growth since the last war, the Second World War, not the Gulf War, the Second World War. More or less at an average of 4 or 5% per annum. And we've seen the emergence of this phenomenon that's called mass tourism. But I think we're about to see a major change, a shake-up in that. Thanks to modern transport, we were able to transport large numbers of people around the globe. The emphasis has been very much on increasing volume, increasing quantity. And the industry has borrowed a lot of its business models and approaches from the manufacturing sector. So, for example, we talk about travel products. And they're not really travel products, they're actually travel experiences. It's human beings having an experience in another place. But we've used these business models. We've used models whereby we think of creating a product, then we position it. In other words, we start to tell our story to the consumer about what that product has to offer. We promote it, and we come up with a price which we hope is going to be attractive to that customer. And if things go wrong, very often the first thing we do to try and get our customers back is we drop our prices.
Anna, you spoke earlier about the massive amount of change taking place in the industry. Could you expand on that for us, please?
See, in this industrial model of tourism, we've tended to treat our guests more as consumers. We talk about the passenger nights, we talk about occupancy statistics, and it's all about mass and volume. And we've measured our performance by yield formulae, such as yield per passenger mile or yield per room night. What we see in the next few years is a real shift back to a much more intimate and caring type of tourism, in which the needs of all the participants, whether they be the guest, the industry provider, and the host community, all of those needs are respected. We see tourism getting back to the basics, and technology helping those providers get back to the basics, and that's helping a provider welcome and be a host to a guest.
Anna, you spoke earlier about the change taking place in our industry. Could you explain that for us, please?
The most fundamental change that's taking place is how we actually look at the industry, if you like, the paradigm or the metaphor that we're using. Traditionally, it's been, as I mentioned before, an industrial one. We've thought of tourism as being a machine or an engine of the economy, when in actual fact what it really is a vulnerable economic ecosystem that has to live in balance with its environment or perish. And by environment, I just don't mean the natural environment. I mean the social, the cultural, and the physical environment. And if it moves out of balance with that, then it will perish and die. So instead of the 4 P's of mass marketing, which everyone learns at school, product, promotion, positioning, and price, we want to see the industry embrace the 4 principles of prosperity, which are respect, responsibility, relationship, and renewal.
Anna, tell me, what does that have to do with technology?
Well, technology is simply a tool. It provides the means whereby those principles can be achieved. And let me explain. So let's look at the first principle, that's respect. We believe that tourism is essentially about an encounter between a guest and a host. And for that to work, it needs to provide each with value, to be mutually respectful and meaningful. Guest and host need to have a personal dialogue or conversation with each other. So to be successful in this business, providers need to get a lot better at listening and at sensing. And we've learned at this travel market about the increasing interest in a new technology called CRM, or Customer Relationship Management. It's still pretty crude, but it is enabling tourism providers to get a much better feel for what their guests are asking for, to be a lot more, in effect, sensitive to what they need. Because if they don't have the ability to sense what the customer wants, they won't be able to add the value, and then they'll go out of business. So that's just one use of technology. There are others as I explore the other principles. The second principle is responsible. Tourism is the world's largest industry, Oscar, and we think that carries a huge responsibility for being an agent of change. Viking-style rapacious tourism just simply won't work anymore. Our customers want to make ethical, responsible choices. They want information to be able to choose between providers who are really serious about being sensitive to their culture and their environment. Responsible tourism means achieving a balance between the needs and desires of the guest, the provider, and the host community. So if you keep dropping your prices, the provider will go out of business. But if you have too much use, and you'll spoil the very thing, that or place or destination that the customer came to see. And if you put too many barriers up to protect your destination, then you often lose the business and everyone loses. So it's about this issue of balance. Now, it's information technologies and the infrastructure associated with being able to convey information about what is overused and underused and steering people in different directions is going to be a tool whereby responsible tourism can be practiced. The third principle is one of relationship. The tourism ecosystem is comprised of lots of fragmented organisms, if you like, that are mutually dependent. So as a customer, I don't just buy an airline ticket to a place. I need also somewhere to eat, I need somewhere to sleep, I need to be entertained, enriched, I want to learn. And all of those services right now are provided by small independent businesses that operate independently of one another. Although in actual reality they are joined at the hip, as it were, because they serve the same customer. But they've no way of working collaboratively at present. And in the same way that Homo sapiens, man, basically moved to the top of the food chain, simply because they learned how to share knowledge and share responsibility. We similarly think that in the tourism industry, it is those providers, those businesses, that learn how to focus on what they do really well and collaborate with others to provide extra value to the guest, are the ones that are really going to prosper. And it's the technologies right now associated with things like web services and XML, open standards, that are going to create the environment in which cooperative business webs can be formed, and these different fragmented industries can actually work seamlessly together to satisfy the guest. The focus at the World Travel Market this year has been very much on recovery, and we've heard a lot of new ideas and approaches from our industry leaders. But the word and the concept that we really want to get across and remember is the word renewal. It's our fourth principle. Because for tourism to really prosper in the future, we've got to attract and keep in the industry some very bright young people, creative people. And to do that, I think we're going to have to give them a sense of meaning, hope, and purpose. Our industry really provides the means whereby individuals can come to understand that we're all the same, that we're all of equal worth, despite the differences that may occur on the surface. So it has an enormous potential to be a vital source of renewal and prosperity in a world that's ravaged by poverty and war. And as the world's largest industry, we have a responsibility in that area. Strangely, tourism has actually been built on renewing our customers. They come to us stressed out, and we put them back together, send them home. And I think it's time that we as an industry were ready to renew ourselves and remake ourselves. Now, DestiCorp doesn't have all the answers, of course, but I think we're asking some of the right questions. But we want to collaborate. We want to invite people to join in the debate that helps ensure the stability and prosperity of this ecosystem. So come to www.desticorp.com. We have a discussion group building there about new ways of providing a sense of